Allow me to share a perspective that will unsettle the majority of individuals today. You do not require vast sums of currency to enjoy a good life, yet almost no one accepts this truth anymore. Society has conditioned people, much like Pavlov's famous experiments, to believe that ease and contentment stem from earnings, not from intellect. That's usually a good sign. You do not need a lot of money to live a good life. In fact, believing that you do might be the most expensive mistake you'll ever make. Society has trained you to think otherwise, trained you carefully, patiently, like a dog in a lab. Ring the bell, show the paycheck promise happiness, and over time, people stopped questioning it. Somewhere along the way, we accepted a dangerous equation: more income equals more peace. Bigger salary equals better sleep. 6 figures equals freedom. And if you don't have those things yet, well, clearly that's the problem. Not your habits, not your decisions, just the number on your pay stub. That story is comforting. It's also nonsense. Here's the uncomfortable truth I've learned after decades in business investing and watching people self-destruct in very expensive ways. You cannot use money to fix stupid behavior. You can't. You can cover it up. You can delay the consequences. You can buy nicer furniture to sit on while you worry, but you cannot escape it. You cannot out-earn foolishness. Say it slowly. Let it sting a little. Because it's true. I've met people making extraordinary incomes who live in constant anxiety. They wake up every morning already exhausted, already behind, already afraid. Not because they're underpaid, but because they've lost control. Their lifestyle owns them. Their bills dictate their choices. Their income goes out the door faster than it comes in, and no raise ever fixes that. It just raises the stakes. And that's the part nobody likes to talk about. High income doesn't eliminate stress. It often amplifies it. More money simply turns your bad decisions into higher definition problems. The car gets nicer, the house gets bigger, the anxiety gets louder. Congratulations, you've upgraded your panic. I'm not here to teach you how to get rich. There are plenty of people yelling about that already, usually right before they sell you a course. I'm here to wake you up, to challenge the idea that your life will finally begin once you earn more. Because if you don't have clarity now, you won't magically find it later. If you don't have discipline at 50,000, you won't suddenly discover it at 200,000. Money doesn't create control, it exposes the lack of it. And the reason this truth makes people uncomfortable is simple. It removes the excuse. It means the problem isn't out there in the economy or your boss or the system. It's internal. It's behavioral, and that's much harder to blame, but far more powerful to fix. So, before we talk about income investing or opportunity, we have to talk about this illusion. Because if you still believe more money will save you, you're already in trouble. Let me make something very clear before you beat yourself up any further. You are not weak, you are not broken, and you are not uniquely bad with money. You are swimming in a system that has been carefully designed to exhaust you, distract you, and then politely ask for your credit card. This isn't an accident. It's a business model. Modern society doesn't reward restraint. It mocks it. Saving is framed as being cheap. Discipline is treated like a personality flaw. Planning ahead is somehow interpreted as living in fear. Meanwhile, reckless spending is marketed as confidence debt, is disguised as treating yourself, and impulse is rebranded as self-care. It's almost impressive, really. Orwell would have called it art. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. You deserve this. You've worked hard. Don't think just buy. And if you hesitate, if you pause, if you choose not to upgrade something that already works perfectly well, something must be wrong with you. Why aren't you enjoying life? Why aren't you keeping up? Why do you look responsible? Here's the quiet trick they've pulled on you. They convinced you that looking rich matters more than being free, and people bought it, literally. They'll trade years of peace for a few seconds of validation. They'll sacrifice sleep flexibility and control just to impress people who won't remember their name next week. I've watched this pattern repeat for decades, and it never ends well. People say they want freedom, but what they actually crave is approval. They want the car that gets noticed, the house that signals success, the lifestyle that says I made it. Never mind the fact that they're one missed paycheck away from panic. Never mind that their calendar owns them and their bills dictate their behavior. As long as it looks good on the outside, the anxiety inside is apparently acceptable. This is how the invisible trap works. No one forces you into it. No villain shows up twirling a mustache. It's subtle, it's friendly, it arrives in monthly payments and limited time offers. And the most dangerous part is that every individual decision feels reasonable. A subscription here, an upgrade there, a little reward because life is stressful. And suddenly, you're working not to build a life, but to maintain an image. Marketing doesn't sell products. It sells identity. It sells belonging. It sells the idea that consumption equals worth. And once you internalize that, freedom becomes secondary. Validation takes the lead. You start measuring success by what others see instead of how you feel when the noise stops. I'm not saying you can't enjoy nice things. I enjoy nice things. But there's a difference between choosing and being programmed. One gives you control, the other quietly takes it away. And the system is very good at convincing you that the chains are actually bracelets. So if you feel constantly behind, constantly pressured, constantly tempted to spend money you don't really have, understand this, it's not just you. You're being sold a story. And in the next part, we're going to talk about what that story does to your math, your stress, and your freedom when the bill finally comes due. Let's take the emotion out of this for a moment and talk about something far less forgiving: math. Because math doesn't care how hard you work, how stressed you are, or how much you feel you deserve more. Math doesn't negotiate. It doesn't sympathize. It just adds subtracts and exposes reality. One of the biggest illusions people cling to is the idea that a higher income equals safety. That once they cross some magical number, the anxiety disappears, the pressure lifts, and life finally behaves. I wish that were true. It would make my job very easy. But I've watched this movie too many times. Same plot, different salary. If you cannot manage $1,000 responsibly, you will not suddenly become a financial genius at $10,000. If you struggle to save money earning $50,000 a year, you will be just as strained at $200,000. The numbers get bigger, the excuses get more sophisticated, but the outcome stays exactly the same. More money doesn't fix bad behavior. It gives it more room to cause damage. This is where people get uncomfortable because math removes the illusion of progress. You feel like you're moving forward because your income went up. But if your spending rose right along with it, you're standing still on a faster treadmill. Same exhaustion, higher speed. Congratulations. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. Bills are not neutral. Every fixed expense is a commitment against your future time. Rent car payments, subscriptions, debt insurance, lifestyle costs. Each one looks harmless on its own. Together, they form a cage, and the higher your bills, the smaller your freedom. It's that simple. Math doesn't care that you needed the upgrade. It doesn't care that life is stressful. It doesn't care that everyone else seems to have one. It only sees cash in versus cash out. And when the out consistently chases the in, anxiety is not a mystery. It's a mathematical outcome. I've seen people with enormous incomes who are completely trapped. They cannot leave jobs they hate. They cannot take a break. They cannot say no. Not because they lack money, but because they lack margin. Their bills consume their options. Their lifestyle dictates their behavior. They don't own their income. Their income owns them. This is why I say, and I'll repeat it until it's uncomfortable, math amplifies behavior, not income. Good habits become powerful with time. Bad habits become catastrophic. Money simply turns up the volume. It doesn't change the song. And there is no emotional workaround here, no mindset hack, no motivational quote. If your expenses are high, your freedom is low. If your obligations are heavy, your choices are limited. That's not pessimism, that's arithmetic. Once you understand this, you stop chasing raises as salvation. You start looking at structure, control, margin. Because the real risk isn't earning too little. It's building a life that collapses the moment the numbers stop cooperating. Let me show you how people really get trapped, because it rarely happens in one dramatic mistake. No one wakes up one morning and says, "Today I will ruin my financial life." That would be far too honest. What actually happens is much quieter, much more polite, and far more dangerous. It starts with things that make perfect sense. A subscription because it's only a few dollars a month. A car payment because you work hard and deserve something reliable. A slightly bigger place because your life is moving forward. Then furniture to match the place. Insurance to protect the things. Gadgets to fit the lifestyle. None of these decisions feel reckless. In fact, each one feels responsible, reasonable, earned. And that's the trap. You don't feel the weight at first because it's added one link at a time. A chain doesn't feel like a chain when it's still lying on the floor, but keep adding links, and eventually you can't move without dragging the whole thing behind you. That's what monthly expenses do. They accumulate silently until one day you realize you're not running your life anymore. You're servicing it. I call this the expense treadmill. You step onto it slowly, almost voluntarily. At first it's comfortable. The pace feels manageable. But every time your income increases, the treadmill speeds up. Your lifestyle adjusts. Your costs expand. And now you have to run just to stay in the same place. Same stress, same pressure. Just better shoes. Here's the cruel part. The treadmill never warns you. It doesn't scream, it hums, and because every single expense was justified at the time, you don't notice the danger until you're exhausted, until you're working not to build something meaningful, but simply to keep the machine alive. Your machine, the one you assembled piece by piece. I've met countless professionals wearing what I call golden handcuffs. They look impressive, high income, nice life. They're trapped. They can't leave jobs they hate. They can't slow down. They can't take risks. Not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because their bills won't let them breathe. The handcuffs are shiny, but they're still handcuffs. And what makes this especially brutal is that society applauds it. Bigger house, success, new car progress, busy schedule, important person. No one asks the uncomfortable question. No one asks whether you're actually free. Because freedom doesn't photograph well. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't arrive in a box. So let me ask you a question, and don't answer it quickly. If you lost your job tomorrow, not next year, tomorrow, how long could you live without panic? 1 month, 2, a week? If that question makes your chest tighten, that's not bad luck. That's a design flaw. Because when your life requires constant income to survive, you're not stable, you're leveraged, you're gambling that nothing goes wrong. And life is very good at going wrong. One missed paycheck, one medical bill, one unexpected repair, and suddenly the whole structure shakes. This is the moment most people realize the truth, usually too late. The treadmill doesn't care how tired you are. The chains don't loosen because you're stressed, and the golden handcuffs don't unlock themselves. The question is whether you recognize where you are now while you still have the chance to step off. Now, here's the part people are always relieved to hear, even if they pretend otherwise. There is a way out. You are not stuck. You're not doomed. But the exit doesn't look like a raise a side hustle or some clever trick. It looks boring. It looks disciplined. And that's exactly why it works. The single most important concept I've relied on my entire life is something we call margin of safety. It sounds technical, but it's not. It simply means this structure your life so one bad month doesn't destroy you, so one mistake doesn't end the game. Wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about how much damage you can absorb and still stand upright. Most people chase more income when what they really need is fewer obligations. They think freedom comes from addition. Another dollar, another upgrade, another stream. In reality, freedom comes from subtraction. Fewer bills, less debt, less nonsense demanding your attention every single month. You don't need to be rich. You need to be resilient. This is where budgeting enters the conversation, and yes, I can feel the collective eye roll. Budgeting has terrible branding. People hear the word and imagine spreadsheets, misery, and saying no to everything fun. That's nonsense. Budgeting is not punishment. Budgeting is self-respect. It's you deciding that your future deserves protection. Start with something brutally simple. Write down every single expense you have, every bill, every subscription, every automatic charge you forgot existed. If money leaves your account regularly, it goes on the list. No excuses, no rounding down. The paper doesn't judge you, but it will expose you. And then comes the hard part. You cut. Ruthlessly, not emotionally, strategically. That streaming service you barely use, gone. The upgrade that added convenience but no real value, gone. The subscription you meant to cancel 6 months ago, congratulations, today is the day. This isn't about living like a monk. It's about removing the things that quietly own you. Every bill you eliminate buys you breathing room. And breathing room changes everything. Lower bills mean you sleep better. You think more clearly. You stop making desperate decisions. Your mind calms down because it's no longer constantly calculating how to survive until the next paycheck. This is what control feels like. Not flashy, not exciting. Quiet, stable, powerful. When your expenses are low, your options expand. You can say no, you can walk away, you can wait. And waiting is an underrated superpower. It allows you to make decisions from strength instead of fear. That's the margin of safety in action. People ask me all the time how to reduce stress. They expect some complicated answer. I give them a very boring one. Reduce your fixed costs. Stress loves tight margins. Calm lives where there's slack. You don't escape the trap by running faster. You escape it by stepping off. And the moment you start lowering your bills, not someday, not after you're rich, but now you'll feel it. That subtle shift from panic to control, from noise to clarity. That's the beginning of real freedom. Now let's talk about the part most people completely misunderstand, especially when things finally start going well. Unexpected money, bonuses, refunds, overtime, a lucky break. This is where financial intelligence is truly revealed and, unfortunately, where most people fail the test. They call it extra money as if it came from nowhere, as if it doesn't count. And, because it doesn't feel earned in the same way, it gets spent with astonishing speed. A weekend trip, a shiny upgrade, a reward for surviving the week. And a month later, the money is gone, and so is the memory of what it bought. That's not bad luck. That's a lack of discipline. I've said this my entire career, and I'll say it again because it's deeply unpopular. Discipline beats intelligence every single time. I've met brilliant people who are broke and very average people who are free. The difference wasn't IQ. It was restraint. It was the ability to pause instead of react. That's why I live by a very simple rule that has saved me millions over the years. Never buy anything the same day you want it. Not a car, not a gadget, not even a jacket that looks fantastic under flattering lighting. Wait 24 hours. If you still want it tomorrow, fine. Maybe it has value. But you'd be amazed how often desire evaporates overnight. Impulse is loud. Reason is patient. And before you spend anything significant, do something most people find uncomfortable. Research. Actually understand what you're buying. People will spend weeks planning a vacation and 5 minutes choosing a car. They'll compare restaurants for an hour and click buy now on a $1,000 item without reading a single review. That's not convenience. That's negligence. And negligence is expensive. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Most spending isn't about pleasure. It's about compensation. It's filling a gap created by stress, boredom, or lack of control. That's why the pleasure fades so quickly. You weren't buying joy. You were buying distraction. And distraction has a very short shelf life. Real satisfaction comes from meaning, not consumption. From control, not clutter. A good book can change how you think for decades. A random purchase might entertain you for 10 minutes and annoy you on your credit card statement for years. One compounds, the other decays. As you practice restraint, something interesting happens. You start appreciating what you already have. You stop chasing approval. You stop measuring your life by what others can see. And suddenly your expenses drop, your mind clears, and your time feels like it belongs to you again. This is where true wealth quietly forms, not in what you buy, but in what you can refuse, in the opportunities you can walk away from, in the pressure that no longer controls you. That's the real luxury, not the car, not the watch, not the house that impresses strangers. Luxury is waking up without panic. Luxury is choice. Luxury is freedom. And remember this, because it's worth repeating. Luxury is not what you own, it's what you can walk away from.